GTA.
Voodoo dolls and waters.
Okay, and then Fairy House. What about it?
I don't even see how much the water.
The Roots.
So we are live.
We love
Just an
babe.
FYI.
So the Roots. Okay.
So, good evening, everyone. All of you here, beautifuls. Love you guys.
Love you.
Right now, we're gonna light this candle from Marie Laveau. We love the East End Train Choir in the background singing us in this evening.
Right. Shout out to all the haters.
Shout out to all the haters. Yes.
We love you too.
You think this video is about you, but it's not. So, I don't want to be them. They want to be me. If you can tell me what movie that's from, you'll win points with my best friend.
Oh.
Anyway, I send this blessing to all of you out there in TV Landia from Marie Laveau to you. Many blessings that you receive all the knowledge tonight. So all this blessing to everybody tonight. That they may receive all of the knowledge. Because tonight we're going to talk about voodoo dolls. So I've already shared a little tidbit with you guys that I'm not going to share with TV Landia. And so take that knowledge with you, and I encourage everybody to seek out more knowledge. So tonight we're going to talk about this doll, and one of the ways I was taught was a hoodoo way. So to bring in the Bible with this one, we come to the verse in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. This says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." And then that's chapter 1, baby. And then verse 27 says, "So God created man in his own image, in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them." So we'll stop right there. There's more that we will get into in this in regards to the scriptures. So we have our little bit of light. Let's bring in our incense. And that's our element of air. Whenever you light incense, that's bringing in that element, okay? And we always want to bring that element in. So tonight you guys were already given already made structure and frame. And the structure and frame that we have is a simple cross. So you have to think about that. That's very important, that scripture that they made in that image, right? So your doll can have many structures. This is a very basic structure, this cross structure, okay? The measurements that we use is 3 inches across for the arm and 6 inches across for the body from head to toe. You can take into consideration the type of wood that you want to use. Think about it. In this instance right now, you guys were given oleander on these right now. This is just and we're using it for a basic frame right now, the oleander. We're not really giving it any magical properties, though it does have magical properties. So thinking about the properties of, let's say you might be making a doll for love or attraction, what type of frame would you use?
Rose stem?
Rose stem. Rose stem is very good. That is let's keep it right there. Rose stem. Okay. Maybe one for luck and success. What would you think about using the stems of what?
Bamboo.
Bamboo. Bamboo is good. Yeah, that's good for luck. Yeah. Anything else? Pine is very good. So think about that. Going to find pine trees and getting a couple of stems and things like that. Elements of that. Let's talk about maybe a doll for uncrossing, something to uncross or unhex, remove something. Ash is very good. Let's see. Any questions on a recommendation for a particular doll in a situation?
What about for legal?
Oh, for legal, I would use oak. Any others? No. Some have asked in the past for me to make them fertility dolls. Those to use orange stems or apple tree stems. Pears are also good to use in things like that. Things for new love. Definitely use anything that is in spring. So anything that is freshly budding. I love to use hibiscus for sex. Gets the blood moving. So if you're looking for a sexual passion doll, think about using some hibiscus. So that frame is going to represent the skeletal structure, okay? And some elements you might want to consider incorporating into that is taking that frame and setting it into some sort of water overnight, a spiritual water. So incorporate that element into it as well. And for those of you out there in TV land, if you're wondering what the pauses are, it's because the class is writing notes and you should be writing notes too. Okay, so grab yourself some sort of natural twine or sinew or wool thread, something like that, to bind those two things and make it into that frame. It's already been done for you guys tonight. You guys are so lucky.
Very.
And I think Zach did all of these, right? Yep.
Thank you so much.
So just go on ahead and secure it is the main thing. Make sure that it's good and tight, that it's not going to slide out of there. It's okay if it's loose a little bit. You see that? No problem. Just make sure that it's secure. And remember, you are the creator in this. You are creating a little life force right now. You are creating this doll. Remember, and you have to have that essence about you. You have to have that mentality, because that's the vibration that you need to bring this thing to life. Okay? Some of the things you want to incorporate is the remembrance that in the formulation of these dolls and with the hoodoo, and how you bring in these elements, is that God created man out of dirt, right? Out of the dirt. And that word Adam comes from Adama. And that word means red dirt. That's why I personally don't get offended if they call me a redskin. Creation came from the red-skinned people. So Adama means red earth, and so when he was created out of that red dirt. So some of the early forms of dolls were created out of clay, and And so look towards that as being a way to make dolls too, not just the voodoo doll. So if you're going to incorporate that element to this, right? Let's say if we were making this doll for something legal, what kind of dirt would you use?
Like dirt from a courthouse?
Dirt from a courthouse, yeah. You'd sprinkle that over this doll. And some of the thing you want to say is, I consecrate this doll with this dirt, with this, let's say for example then, dirt from the courthouse down off of Franklin, and for legal purposes. And then whatever that legal purpose is going to be. Or from a bank if it's for a doll of prosperity. You can even make you a St. Joseph. Go to find you a St. Joseph church in the area. Y'all know what St. Joseph is good for? Selling houses, right? Mm-hmm. Make you a St. Joseph doll. You go to the church, St. Joseph Church, get you a little bit of dirt from there, then you sprinkle it on that doll, right? And then you can take that doll and use it as a St. Joseph doll and bury it upside down if you're trying to sell a house. You can't get you a statue. You got to make you a doll. So once you incorporate that element of dirt on there, right? Because we were made out of dirt. Then we have to put all that flesh on there, that meat, right? And that meat, what we use, this is not this is not one way. Like I said, you can use several different things for stuffing. But Spanish moss is what is most readily available around here. So today, you went to Mason Park, you found the Spanish moss, and just pick it up. Make sure it's clean. This is very beautiful moss. Look at that, you guys. Green. It's a lot. Feel that coolness.
Yeah, some good
right?
Spanish moss.
It just feel good in your hands. I would feel it, even though y'all picked it for me. Like, I know what it feels like. Right, but feel that life in it. It's green. It's fresh. It's cool. And then think about the elements that were going on as you picked this. It was cold and rainy and refreshing and cleansing, right? Some people would think that's miserable, but this. And it's nice. So when you're using your elements, what is it like? And let's work with fresh. So set aside some of that Spanish moss. You need just about a handful, like that, really. But if you like to make those dolls a little bit thick, get you about 2 handfuls. And then you can fix that Spanish moss with glue. This is where you start fixing these dolls, okay? So if you want, you can begin, let's do, get me from that cabinet that mint. Nurse, hand me the mint. And give me a little bit of that sandalwood right there. Yep. And hand me one of those little silver spoons. Let's see. Okay, so you have your Spanish moss. You get yourself a little green, and you have yourself a little bit of oil. This is first thing you want to do is the oil. Take the oil and lightly dress that Spanish moss with it. You only need a few drops. You see that? Come in and look at that. See how it's just a few drops? And then fold it in to itself, like this. Look. Fold that in. And begin to rub it. Work it in gently. Ooh, that smells so good. And then sprinkle in that your green. So we're going to use a little bit of spearmint to attract. Sprinkle that in there. And a little bit of sandalwood, because we don't want it to be, if we're drawing clients, you don't want to, in retail, we don't, especially because we're in a spiritual way, we don't want to draw in these clients, we don't want to draw in clients too quickly. We want people to come as they need to come. You know, so sandalwood is more subtle, I guess you could say. You know, also you don't want to rush particular things, because in that you don't get the best people to come into your doors. You know what I'm saying? And we just don't want bad people to come through those doors. You know, somebody who, and we understand now because we are a place of healing, you know, and we're a place of counseling, that, you know, those who are looking for that, yes, most definitely come, but we don't want those people that bring those dark energies to just come through, you know. So that's where sandalwood comes in, is it's very subtle when it comes to draw clients, you know. So mix all that in, work it well. All right. And Zach, can I use some of this? String will represent the veins and the blood flow. Okay. All right. So at this time, then, you're going to take that stuffing and begin to twist it. For those of you out there, let me show you. Take it in your hand, you guys, like this, and begin to just twist it like you're going to turning that into some sort of rope, right? And that's really what you're doing there. Now, you don't want it super, super, super tight, but you do want to twist it. See how it's starting to form there? Like that as I twist? Okay. And then you're going to do like this. This is the technique that I was showing, and I'll show you guys. It's called, I call it the spider's butt, you know, because that's what how it was described to me. It looks like a spider's butt weaving the web that's going to come out of it, right? Okay, you see that, baby? And that's the technique that I want y'all to use, because that's going to show you a good way to make these dolls in a solid way. And so remember, when you always crafting, you always want to craft in the best way. You always want what you're making to be good, of good quality. You know, don't just throw a doll together. If you just throwing a doll together, then you're just throwing the conjure together, and then that's just how you're going to receive it. You know? Okay. So, begin from the head, and take that, start like that, and yeah, come here and look at that. Begin from the head and twist out and turn. Turn that in like that. Okay? And then begin to move it down. See how I'm doing that?
Mm-hmm.
When you get there to the center, work that again. That moss out. Work it out. And weave it. Because what you did there was for the head. Pull it out a little bit. Twist. Again. Rotate those arms. Now I like to go out first, wide, like this. See that? Instead of starting here, I like to start out there. See that? So for those of you out there, instead of starting in tight, close to the body, I like to start out here, closer to the hand. And the reason why I do that is because if we go out that way, thin it out a little bit more. And be gentle with it, you guys. We go out that way. When we come back, it will be able that arm won't be too thick. Okay, and that's where some people run into the problem with the arms is that, oh shit, they underestimated how thick, and they get some strong armed voodoo dolls. Okay, so again, we're twisting that, and we go out to the palm and bring it back in. And then bring it to the front. And you'll have the chest area. Give it a little bit of moss there. And come back to the back. And then let it go down that body. So twist it and turn it. So let me braid this a little bit. Now the best thing about Spanish moss is it's really cool because you can interlock new moss. So see how I'm coming to the end of this one here? Oh, thanks. Thanks, darling. You got me. See how I have this excess moss there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to begin to incorporate that in there. And let it go all the way down. And then just, I'm sorry. Sorry out there in TV Landia. I'm focused on these guys here, but I want to share with you guys. Okay. Twist and lock. Just like doing your hair. And see how that's giving you a very well put together doll? Okay. So another piece that you're going to need is there's legendary in some of the writings. I say a lot or some. But in many of the writings, you will begin to see that they call for you to put the swallow's heart in the voodoo doll's chest. And that could sound like you're supposed to go out and get a swallow and kill it, and get its heart. But the swallow's heart is code, like all things in magic. They have, these neat little names and such. The swallow's heart is a simple red bean. So get you a red bean. If you don't have a red bean, red corn will suffice, or some sort of red grain. Okay. Now look at that doll. Isn't it good? Alright, good structure. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's where you put that piece that I taught you guys about earlier. Right there. Can you hand me behind you, and there should be a little red corn. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So in this one, in the front, you determine which side is going to be the front or the back. Insert that red corn. That's the heart. Okay, can everybody see him? All right. And in that heart, you give it three little pumps. And those pauses just like a heartbeat. 1, 2, 3. We're bringing this thing to life, remember? Okay. So, now that we have that, get you some string. You can get twine or sinew or thread or whatever. Okay? Here we have some, it's red.
Oh.
I'm showing them out there. TV Landia. And that, when we put that around that doll, we are using it to represent the veins in the body, the blood life. So wrap it around. Okay. Get it nice and tight on there. And you start to see them take form. When you start developing them, you'll start seeing, oh yeah, this is the front, that's the back. Oh yeah, I can see the head now, or the face, or whatever. You know? Mm-hmm. Take your scissors, cut it off there, tie it off at the end. Somebody give me something to drink over there. I'm talking way too much.
I have to stand up.
Does anybody have any questions so far? No?
So are there other things, like, besides the, like, if you have, like, bones or anything else, could you put that in there?
Oh Oh yes, you mean as far as like maybe animal bones?
Yeah.
Or yeah, absolutely.
Or could that even be the structure if you?
That could most definitely be the structure. If you want to get creative with it on that level, thank you. Oh, most definitely, yes, you can. I would use. You can use bird bones. You can use rabbit bones. You can use all kinds of bones. Most definitely. Oh yeah, and the femurs would probably be your best, like the leg bones and the arm bones. Yeah, definitely. Ooh.
Well, basically, you could fill it with whatever you want: oils, grease, crystals, whatever.
Yeah, the art of doll making. Now, I did say voodoo dolls because we're focusing on one specific doll technique tonight. But the art of dolls in itself ranges from stuffed dolls to corn dolls to clay dolls to anything that was a puppet or some sort of image of an individual, of a human being, you know. So you can get as creative as possible with it.
Please.
So yes, as far as stones, let's talk about that then.
Okay.
So maybe think about your stones. You might want to put like a rose quartz in there if you're dealing with some sort of healing, right?
Or like red coral protection.
Red coral protection, yeah. Garnet for confidence, right? Tiger's eye or malachite for money or something like that. Think of those stones that you might want to incorporate in that. And because it's fresh, and I love Spanish moss because you can put those things in there. People acknowledge the chakras, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can put the chakra stones in those dolls in there.
Oh, nice.
Right? Think about
For
that.
like healing.
Yeah. You know, if you're doing dolls for connections, I know we were just talking about things that you can do with like lovers or whatever. You know, you can do those things as well for those types of dolls. Putting a white pearl in place of the sexual organs, you know. I mean, there is just a lot that we could cover on that. I mean, I would like to discuss more on general topic of even transitioning. We talk about butterfly oil and chrysalis oil, transitioning from one gender into another. How do we release that thing of the past, and how do we bring into fruition that thing of the new and stuff like that? And you can do that with dolls because we utilize that. If we were to make this doll for some sort of transition in our life, for healing, we would make this doll in a particular manner like this, and then it's going to burn in a fire or be buried in something that we lay those things to rest, you know, to where they decompose or that they are no more. You know, and then we must bring those new things into life. That's when you start using the scriptures of the resurrections. You see, when it comes to do with hoodoo and transition, you lay the old thing to rest, or you burn it or something like that, and then they talk about the resurrection, then you read all those resurrection scriptures to bring the new things into life. So that's how you can use those. So in healing, you know, if you need to release those things, you know, do it in that way. So if y'all got more questions about that, we can talk about that more. But moving back onto technique. Okay, so we have the doll, and now we have to give it the flesh. Now we have to give it the skin, okay? Everybody over here is making tea and coffee and water. Everybody got thirsty. Cabrones con los cue cards.
Oh, we can work on that.
Okay.
Hey.
So your fabric then, the skin. Here we've just chosen some simple gray cotton fabric that we're going to work with tonight. Gray is a good neutral color that you can make it for whatever. Now, these fabrics also you might want to soak in those waters that you soak the doll in earlier as well to absorb all of that. Okay. My suggestion is that to dry those things, put them outside in the sun. Put them to soak the night before, overnight. As the sun rises, let them put out in the sun to dry, and then continue to work on that doll in the evening to put it together. If it has not dried fully, then give it some moon energy and let it continue to dry throughout the night and into the next day. But you always want to make sure, most definitely, that your fabric is dry. I tell you this because already your doll, if you're working with fresh elements like this, it's already some moisture in there, so you don't want it to, really like decompose, rot, get moldy, or anything like that. Because the doll,
Unless you want it to.
Unless you want it to, that's true. No, for all you haters out there, this was not about you.
It's for educational purposes.
Educational purposes only. Okay, so the length of this fabric right here, the best thing to work with is the inch of the first digit of your thumb right here. Okay, so that's about the length of what you're going to want to cut that. And you're going to want about the length of I always say from finger to finger. So that's from this finger to this finger, okay? And that's the length of your arm. Hold it out, right? And so that's why I asked you guys to cut 2 of these. So that's one like that's the center, and then that like this. There's your other arm. So that should be about enough fabric for you to work with on this doll. But Doc, some people's arms are shorter than others. That's true. Figure it out. No, I'm kidding. You shouldn't really need more than 4 feet of fabric. If you're working with more than 4 feet of fabric, your doll is like really big, But measure out about 4 feet if you really need some sort of measurement. Measure out about 4 feet length of that fabric like that. Now choose your fabric. Does your fabric have to be this? Your fabric can be anything that you want. Let your imagination run wild, okay? If you want to be a purist and it's cotton and this and that, that's cool too, okay? But don't deny yourself the elements of the creativity behind those dolls. Someone out there, I just want to give a big shout out to my friend Denise Alvarado. She has a book that you guys should look up called the Voodoo, Voodoo Doll Spellbook, I think is what it's called, by Denise Alvarado. It's a really fun book on teaching you how to create these dolls and stuff like that too, and she makes some really cool dolls. So your fabrics can be green, your fabrics can be red, your fabrics can have patterns of money on it or patterns of hearts on them. Your patterns can have whatever. Be creative on it, Think of your basic colors, though. Greens are associated with money. Oranges are associated with physical healing. Yellows are associated with mental healing. Pink is associated with emotional healing. Green is associated with mental health healing, so that rejuvenation and stuff like that. Red is always that passion of sexuality and romance, okay? So think of those kind of things. White is pure. You might want to make a doll to represent your ancestors, so the fabric you might want to use is white on that one, okay? So think about that fabric of what you're going to want to use on that, okay? Now, if you want to, on the inside of that, you can then begin to write a petition on that thing as well. Okay? Add that element in there. Write it along that scroll. Is it a doll of healing? Write that healing prayer on there. Is it a doll of attracting a lover? Write that spell of attraction on there. Whatever it is, incorporate that element.
Would you do like mixed use type dolls, or would you keep it pretty?
You would keep it pretty like singular use. Yeah. Okay. So let's start from the head, from the beginning. Now this is going to be interesting because there's no stitching involved. Okay? So, we start at the head, and you begin to wrap a couple of times. Come around like this. Like that. And then bring it down. And the same thing with the arms. Remember, I like to go out to the hand first. And then wrap that guy and bring him back in. And then wrap that chest. Like that. That down. Down. And begin to go down. See that? Tight. Have the rest of that fabric. Wrap around.
Does it matter which way you twist it on, like clockwise, counterclockwise, or anything?
It does because it can. Not to say that it does, that it has to go one way or the other, but you can incorporate that element to it if you want to. You can to draw something to you, to make things come. It would be clockwise, to draw things away would be counterclockwise, to send it away. So yes, definitely incorporate that. Okay, so now when you have the bottom, okay, you tie it off. All right? Put your finger in there like that. See that? Bring it back around. I'm right there. Tuck that in there. Okay, yep. Boy Scout. Tuck it in there. Pull that. Whoop.
Pull that umbilical cord.
You see that? Wrap it around. And there you should have your doll and a little bit of excess. Y'all see that? TV Landia. Little doll. Feel that? Nice and sturdy. It's not falling apart. It's not going anywhere. It's strong. He said, ooh. Those are them kind of voodoo dolls that you throw up against that enemy's door and thump.
You break a window. It's like a boxer's fist, real tight.
Why did they hand me the camera?
So, with that excess, you really just can cut it off.
That's
And
the
if it's-
umbilical cord.
That's the umbilical cord. And if it's part of the spell on there, continue to use that then and wrap it around and make that knot somewhere else. Okay, pull it off. But also, if you want to, you can use that excess fabric for something on the doll. Okay, maybe the doll wants a hat, or maybe the doll wants, a sachet or something. No telling. I have had dolls ask for a variety of different things in my time of making them. Okay, so there you are. We have that basic doll. But we're not done. Okay? In this one, the next step then is you have to bring that thing to life. Okay? And you have to go back into the scriptures on that. And where you're gonna go back, and because I'm sorry, babies, but I don't remember the scripture by the number. But where you need to go in this Genesis, and you just read a little bit after the scripture verse that I gave you, you're gonna read about the breath of life, and that he was laid in the east of the garden. Okay? And I feel like, okay, give me a little bit. I'm going to find it here for you guys.
He was made in the east.
Let's see. Okay. Okay. And it's right here in chapter 2, in verse 8. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden, in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Okay? So that's the scripture right there. That gives us part of our next step and what we need to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a tree. Now, if you can't find a tree, that's okay. But attempt to find a tree. If you live in the city, look, and I'm just going to say like this. If you live in the city, you've got to find that magical spot within the city in which you can work. Okay? There are several undisturbed places that you can work roots at. Okay? And that you can conjure at. So in the east, we're on the east end, is where you're going to lay this doll at night. And the scriptures say that God breathed into man the breath of life. So you must breathe into your doll this breath of life. You can use a cigar, inhale a cigar, and blow at the doll to let that represent a breath of life. You see the physical air blowing on him, right? Just like that. Or you breathe onto that doll with just your breath. But breathe into that doll. Don't breathe on that sucker.
Huff and puff.
Huff and puff and blow that house down. Okay, you are creating something here. Do not lose momentum in your energy, okay? Right now we're doing a class. Right now I'm showing you. But when you're doing this, you are moving. You are putting all of these pieces together. You are creating. You are creator. You're setting your environment. What music are you going to play? What scents do you want to be around? Should you have patchouli if you're working with money and love and things like that? Or whatever it may be. Bring that element into it while you're working it. You got to be in the zone and flowing, okay? So if you want to practice on making a couple of dolls and perfecting your technique, do so, okay? Okay, so we're in the doll. We have breathed the breath of life into it. We have laid it into the garden, right? Sunrise comes on the next day. With the rising of that sun comes the waking of that doll. You have brought it then into existence. And on that day, then you can begin to work that doll for whatever form and fashion you need. And you're going to then pull it from its place where it has been laid there to rest and put it, in a shoebox or on an altar or wherever you need to do these things.
So what if it rains or something?
Give it that element then.
Oh, okay.
You know? Now, a simple way to do it on the inside, okay, is to build that sacred garden then. Map it out, okay? Get you an altar cloth or something, a square. I have even used a handkerchief, you know. You go and get you a pañal, you know, a handkerchief. How do you say it? The paños?
Yeah, like a little bandana or something like that.
Yeah, you can get them at the Dollar General or Kroger's. They come 3 to a pack. They're just white handkerchiefs. And on that, you can draw on that your directions, north, south, east, and west. And you can lay that doll in the east and put that candle over here on the west, okay, and light it. And let that element, bring that element into it, okay?
Cool.
Okay. Any questions? Yes.
So you said lay it to the east of a tree, or find a tree to the east of where you are and lay it anywhere under it?
Find a tree to the east of, very good. Find a tree to the east of where you are and lay it there. Very good question. Any other questions? No? Okay, so that is your doll. Very good doll. Now, just to add a little tidbit on there, let's talk about needles, right? Oh, the needles are bad. The needles cause pain. The needles can cause pain and the needles can be bad. Who brought the needles? Let me see some of those.
Yes. Bust that sewing kit out.
So the needles, some sewing kits have little needles like this with different little dots on them. Cute. I don't know the technical term for these. Some sewer out there is going to call these by their proper name.
Sewing pin.
They're called sewing pins. I love these because the colors are great for those things. Remember what we talked about in colors. Now you can anoint those needles with particular oils. Let's say they need healing oil, or they need focus oil, or courage oil, or whatever it is. Shut the fuck up oil. Whatever the oil may be, you take it and put it on that needle. And then utilize that needle to focus intent and energy. So, this one time I had this little incident with Chase Bank, and some money had been stolen out of my account. And it was good something fucking money. And at that time, I really needed that money for the rent. Y'all know how that can be, right? Yeah. So, the dude was not moving fast enough. I had already filed the claim with police reports and submitted all my paperwork and everything like that to them. Blah, blah, blah. So it all boiled down to I called that saying, I said, well, what is the deal? He said, there's this one dude that has to sign off on it. We're just waiting for the dude to sign off on it, and that's it. I made a doll representing that dude. And I put the needle in the head area, in the what I would consider the forehead area of the doll, that I would be on his mind. And then I put some in his hands that he would sign my paper and stuff like that, you know. So I focused intent. So you can use those needles to focus intent. So there's the brain area, so you can focus there, thought, right? That's the energy and intent that you're working on in that area there, is the thought, the mind, anything having to do with the brain. Are you controlling the individual? Okay? Because there is that. There's the thought. Are you trying to get into the individual's mind? There's thought. Okay? Are you trying to communicate a message? There's thought. The next area you would consider would be to the left and to the right of that particular area. And those would be the eyes. Okay, so I'm actually going to put a pin in each one of these areas so you can then begin to see. Okay, because you don't necessarily have to have buttons and all these things. Remember, this is a very simple doll. The area to those, very simple but very powerful. Don't get it twisted. The area to the left and to the right, just below that, would be the eyes. Anything having to do with sight. Okay? Do not forget the nose. Center to the mind, slightly down, in between that would be the area of the nose. Again, anything having to do with scent. Scent can also mean somebody snooping around, getting too much information. Okay? Then an area slightly below that would be the mouth. Anything having to do with speech. Are we barring speech or are we opening it? Now remember the placement of your heart within that. That, of course, will always resemble the heart. Anything having to do with it. If you want to be the kind of person to inflict pain in joints, you must map that out as well. Or you can also use it for healing joint pain. Map that out. Where is that shoulder blade in here? Where is that right there? Okay? Where is the elbow? Map that out. Where is the wrist versus the palm? I always like to use the end for the wrist and the tip for the palm. See that? That end I like to use for the wrist and that and put it in there for the palm. Remember then that there are multiple sides to the doll as well. So while we are still on this level of the doll, let us focus on the side. If we're focusing on region of the neck, here is the neck on the side, just above the joint. See that? In the back, in between the shoulder blades, center, but right above and right below the neck. I give you all these things because you can cause harm, and you can also remove the effects of harm in this manner. If a person has been afflicted by somebody and the pain is within their shoulder blade, you must first put that in there and then practice the art of releasing that pain. That is one of the most common signs that somebody is working against you, is that pain right in between your shoulder. That's the effects of that ojo that comes in. And so you have to focus on that spiritual removing of that as well. But yes, you most very well can cause that pain in somebody by sticking it right back in. So that is the shoulder blade area. Focus, of course, on the back of the head would be center. Straight center on the back of the head. Okay? That is the blocking of knowledge on there. The front is used to open and put something there. The back is to restrict something. If you're going to put it in the front, it's because you're blocking someone's spiritual eye. Okay, so if you put it in the front forehead to block, it's only to block the spiritual eye. Putting on the back is blocking a lot more than that. Putting on the back is blocking someone's creativity. Okay? But releasing from the back could be opening up someone's creativity. Right? You see how the difference? Okay. Now you know. Now do what you will with the knowledge. Okay. Coming back to the front. Focus on this area. Remember, created in our image. So you have to look at the body. Now we're dealing with intestinals on this and lungs, right? And all of that. So look in the center of the body. Think of the lungs. The lungs would be right here, right under the arms, to match the eyes even to the left and to the right. There must always be balance. Remember that. Though that would represent the lungs.
So what would you use the lungs for as an intention?
Oh, lungs can be used to steal the breath away from people. Lungs can be used to heal people, right? Mm-hmm. Lungs can be used to give somebody that extra strength that they need, right? That warrior strength sometimes too, focusing on that. Think of the lungs. What do the lungs represent? What do you need your lungs for? So those would represent for you the lungs, okay? And anything else in between would fall center and just low of that in the position as if where you put that needle for the nose up above. Do you see that? Again, coming to that balance. You see that? The same that we did here with the eyes and the nose is there. That would be like your gallbladder, or and all those little things that are up in here. I'm not talking about your kidneys; those are in the back. We'll talk about those because we bring balance. Talk again, okay? Then we talk about your intestines, your stomach. That would be the area right below that nose. What would be the mouth on the head spot would be the intestine part on the body. Everybody follow? Mm-hmm. Cool. Now, interestingly enough, the balance, right? Genitalia reflects the space where the mind is. The mind connected to the genitalia.
Right.
Imagine that. Because remember, it was not here with the eyes, right? Here's the nose and here's the mouth. So that one is the only one that is reflective, that is opposite, but still a balance. Right in center right there. I'll show you. Here you go. That is your genitalia. After your genitalia, let's move to the back.
You want somebody to get off their ass.
Back even with the lungs. That there represents your kidneys and stuff like that, okay?
Kidneys are even to what?
Huh?
Kidneys are even to...
To the lungs on the front. The spine of the individual is that center right here. The hips are represented right across from the genitalia. So if you're looking at it sideways, it'll be just like that, parallel. That's the hips. That's the tailbone. This goes in a perfect. This is the left hip. This is the right hip. That's almost like a crossroads right there. See that? You got it? Now let's work on what represents the knee. Is center. Can represent both knees. You want to represent both knees, move it to match the lungs and the eyes. Okay? We'll talk about the ankles. What did we say is what? The ends, right?
Yeah.
And then the feet. Down in the bottom. Any questions so far? So now you have points of focus. Remember also on the side, you can affect the hearing. That's one area we didn't cover. Ears would be in the location of the ears.
Monica says she loves everybody.
Love you, Monica.
We love you too, Monica.
We miss you.
Monica was hanging out with the elderly elders of her kinfolks, families tonight.
Like a good dog.
Any questions so far?
More just situational. Like,
Okay.
what if there's like multiple people? You have to make multiple dolls
Yeah.
and make a whole little congregation?
Whole little congregation. A little box full of dolls.
So if someone had like a legal thing, but they had a jury type situation, you would have to do
10 jurors, 10 dolls. Yeah. Yeah, most definitely.
or maybe just do a doll on the
on the judge,
on the
attorney,
prosecutor or the.
I mean, it just depends on the legal situation, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah. Any other preguntas before we move into water?
We got that water.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a little break.
Can you draw on it?
Oh yeah. For those of you out there, thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, hit us up later, and we'll be happy to answer them. Talk to y'all later.